What is up, everybody? Chris here from Fake Sports News, back at it again with another video. I know that I've had a very long hiatus, but life has been a little bit crazy over the last few months, so come by it honestly. So to give you guys an update on where I've been, I got very sick after recording my last video. When I was getting up my last two videos, I started to feel really sick. I just didn't feel like myself and, had stomach issues. So I ended up sick for about 6 or 7 weeks after the upload of my last video. So yeah, it was a rough time. Obviously I'm in good health now because I'm going to the event tomorrow. But yeah, it was definitely a difficult process, the healing process. And I was more so focused on just getting my health back on track and making sure that my life was in order before I started uploading videos again. So that's why I've been gone for so long. Looking at our first matchup of the event, of course, we have the Minnesota Rocker taking on the Paris Legion in round 1 of Group B. So I favor the Paris Legion in this matchup just because they've looked so strong in their previous showings. And the Minnesota Rocker, they're a great team, don't get me wrong, but they haven't gotten in as many reps as the Legion have on LAN, so that's why I favor them. Of course, looking ahead to our next matchup, we'll have the London Ravens taking on the Florida Mutineers. I favor the Ravens in this matchup just because they've looked to be in great form. Obviously, London was the last event, and the Ravens looked pretty good, so I think they have a very good chance of taking this matchup. And Florida, they haven't gotten as many reps on LAN, similar to Minnesota. The last event that both of those teams played was at Minnesota, so I favor London just because they've had more reps on LAN, as I said about Paris as well. Looking ahead to our next matchup, of course, we have the Chicago Huntsmen taking on Toronto Ultra. I think Chicago will take this match pretty convincingly. Chicago's looked to be in great form. Of course, they won London, and they haven't lost yet, so I don't see them losing to Toronto. Of course, in our last match of the first round of the group stage, we will see the hosting team, the Atlanta FaZe, taking on Optic Gaming LA. I think that Atlanta takes this match 3-0. They've looked to be in fantastic form. Since really the game came out, there was a point in time where they went on a 50-map win streak, which was crazy, absolutely nuts. So they are considered to be, if not the best team, definitely top 2 along with Huntsman. So it remains to be seen who's better on LAN. We'll see if they face off in the finals. Moving on to round 2, I see this as a matchup between Atlanta and London. I think that Atlanta takes this to advance to the semifinals. Of course, on the other side of the winner's bracket, I see Paris and Chicago going head-to-head. I think Chicago wins this match possibly 3-1. If they drop a domination, it might be a 3-0, but I think it's going to be a close series regardless. Of course, moving on to the loser's bracket, I have the Mutineers taking on Optic Gaming. I think Florida comes away with the win here just because I think that they're in better form than Optic is right now. On paper, Optic has a fantastic roster, but it doesn't seem that chemistry-wise they've gelled yet. Of course, on the Group B side of the losers bracket, I have Minnesota taking on Toronto. I think Minnesota wins this. Minnesota has been a great team. Toronto has had their struggles, so I don't really see them winning a series this weekend, but they could change my mind. They have some great players on their roster. Of course, looking ahead to round 2 of the losers bracket, looking at the Group A side, I see London taking on Florida, and I see London getting the win. I think they'll win either 3-1 or 3-0. I think they're the better team. Of course, Florida is a great team, but I just think London is firing on all cylinders and they have more experience on LAN at this point, so that will help them. Of course, looking ahead to round 2 of the losers bracket from the Group B side, I have Paris taking on Minnesota. I think it's going to be a great matchup, but I favor Paris to win this matchup pretty convincingly, either 3-0 or 3-1. I think the Paris is in great form right now, and they've really cemented themselves as one of the better teams in this game. Moving ahead to the semifinals, of course, I see Chicago taking on the London Royal Ravens. I think Chicago takes this one 3-0 or 3-1, depending on how well the Ravens play Search this weekend. They're a great Search and Destroy team, and they've really improved over the last couple of weeks. So I think there's potential that they could take a Search off of Huntsman, but I don't think they win the series. Of course, on the other side of the semifinal bracket, we'll have the Atlanta FaZe taking on the Paris Legion. I think Atlanta wins this 3-0. I think they just have too much firepower right now, and they're in such great form. Looking ahead to our grand final, I see Chicago taking on Atlanta. I think these two juggernauts are on a collision course, and I think that they will finally meet up this weekend. With that being said, I think this will be a very closely contested matchup. However, I have Chicago taking this one simply because FaZe didn't attend London and they didn't get in those reps. Of course, you can't count out FaZe Clan. They've shown themselves to be the clear-cut number 1 at multiple points in this game. Of course, they went on a 30-plus win streak, And then they followed that up by, I believe, hitting 49 maps without a single loss. So these guys are in top tier form. They've been in top tier form all year long. And this matchup will be very closely contested, will be very competitive, and very exciting. This matchup will really help us to gain some clarity as to who's the better team at the current moment. Of course, with game updates, the landscape of the game could change many times throughout the rest of the year, but it'll at least let us know who's the number one team right now. I will be betting this weekend, so hopefully y'all can win some money with your boy. My picks for round 1 are London, Atlanta, Chicago, and Paris. But Chris, what about hedging? I'm going to hedge. I'm going to put money on Florida as well as Minnesota. I think those are the only two teams that have potential to bust my bracket. I think London and Paris have looked to be great teams, but they have lost, so there is potential that they lose. Of course, looking at losers round 1, I see Florida and Minnesota making it out. I mean, OGLA and Toronto Ultra, they haven't really looked to be in the best form, so I think it's a pretty safe bet to put your money on the Mutineers and the Rocker. Of course, looking ahead to losers round 2, if all things go according to plan, the Royal Ravens will be matching up against the Mutineers. I think the Ravens take this just because they look to be in such great form at the end of their homestand, of course losing a very closely contested series to the Empire. Of course, moving on to the other side of the bracket, I do think there's potential for an upset here. I think the Rocker are a very solid team and they have a lot to prove this weekend. With that being said, I do favor Paris to win this matchup. I think it'll be a pretty competitive matchup if I'm being honest, and I think it'll be a great one to watch, but I think the safe bet is Paris. Of course, looking ahead to the top side of our semifinals, I see Chicago taking on the London Royal Ravens. I think Chicago takes this victory 3-0. I think obviously since they're on a 7-series win streak and I believe they've only lost 2 maps, maybe 3, I think they take this pretty convincingly. Of course, in the bottom half of the bracket, I have Atlanta taking on Paris. If you're a madman, I would say put money on a 3-0. I think that Paris's domination, it could be better. It's pretty good, but it's not dominant enough where I would say they could convincingly take it off a phase. That's looked to be their weakest game mode on LAN. That's the only thing that they've lost since they've played on LAN. So I see this going as a 3-0. If you are a maniac and you want to bet on the scoreline, bet on the 3-0. In the final, I'll be putting money on a 3-2 in favor of both teams. I'm going to hedge this one. I think that this series is going the distance. I really don't see a 3-0 coming out for either side. Of course, I could be wrong, but I really strongly suggest that you put money on a 3-2 win for either team and just hedge this one. If I didn't give a specific map count prediction, it's because I'm very unsure of the outcome of the matchup. And in the case of round 1, I would say definitely hedge and place a bet on Minnesota as well as the Mutineers. I think they have potential to upset and really mess up some of our brackets. So if you're looking for an upset that'll potentially make you a decent chunk of change, that would be it. So that'll do it for me today. Hopefully we can win some money together this weekend. Hopefully my picks are not absolutely atrocious. I will keep you guys updated in the comment section how the bets went this weekend. And of course I'll be bringing you a recap video sometime next week, including some footage from the event. So be on the lookout for that. It's great to finally be back on YouTube, man. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. There's a lot more to come, a lot more exciting things on the horizon, so be on the lookout for that. Be sure to stay in the loop with us. I'll link all the social media down below in the description. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great morning, noon, or night, wherever you may be on this beautiful planet. I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace. I know y'all missed the intro and the outro. I missed y'all too. It's great to be back.